We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Sunday. We got kind of a special show today. Sundays, not a lot of new stuff happens, but we've got a lot of stuff to talk about from the past week. And we have a guest on the show, as we commonly do, except this guest you never heard before. And I think you're going to find it very interesting. This listener guest, is Cloressa. She's from
Cloressa.
Cloressa,
Right.
from Chicago. And Claressa is somebody that's been watching TikToks and stuff, and she is a woman in Chicago. And I'm going to tell you this, Claressa, with the way things are going, I've said this before, Donald Trump and the Republicans are mounting a war against women and children and LGBTQ folks, people of color. And now we're starting to push back, and you sound like somebody who's not going to be shy about pushing back.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And, just to state this, because the topic for today, we're going to speak on Kamala Harris, and I'm going to speak on this topic from a Black woman's perspective. I think it's really refreshing. I think it's absolutely fantastic. A round of applause to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris for, number one, Joe Biden endorsing Kamala Harris to run for the next president of the United States. And I really do hope that she wins, because she will make a huge impact with this country, because it's time for a change.
Well, here's the interesting thing. A lot of people think that this all happened by accident, that Joe Biden got pushed out and Joe passes the torch to Kamala. And there's been a lot of support for Kamala. And a lot of people think, well, that's just happenstance. I tend to think that there might have been some calculation with this. Joe knew he was going to have to step aside with all these people pushing against him, and he's slowing down a little bit. He's still probably the greatest president you and I have ever seen in our lifetimes as far as accomplishments. But as I've said before, as a Black woman in Chicago, this has to hit home with you, especially because it seems like the Republicans are literally starting a war against women, people of color, LGBTQ, anybody that's not like them. The idea of having a Black woman running for president seems like a new idea, a risky idea, but I think it's very calculated, because she's of those groups that they're fighting against. What better way than to have a general of those groups that they're attacking, and a strong general at that? Do you think this was all by chance, or do you think it was calculated to a certain extent?
You know what, Mike? I think it was like a combination of both, because, from Joe Biden's perspective, I think that he did come up with that decision, because considering his age, and I really wish Joe and his wife the best, though, because he deserves to live the best life ever while he's still on this earth, and be happy. But it is it's time for new blood to come into office, someone that's in tune with today's, issues that's going on here in America. And, for Donald Trump to just sit here and just snatch all those rights from us, far as for the minorities, far as for the women, far as for the LGBT community, and especially trying to attempt to put Project 2025 in place, I think that's not right, and something needs to be done. That needs to be stopped.
Yeah.
And I really give Kamala Harris, a round of applause, though, for stepping in and, representing and being the right candidate, because it's time to take back, what's rightfully ours, and that's freedom in this country, because our forefathers did fight for, to the level where we're at now here in the year 2024.
Right. Well, Claressa, I have to make an explanation for those people watching on YouTube. You'll notice Claressa's camera is off. And the reason that's off is she's just getting over COVID. She's not comfortable from being on camera, and that's perfectly fine. The audio people, They don't know what's going on. They're just listening to it. But if you're watching on YouTube, we didn't screw up. This is on purpose. I will tell you this, Claressa. As a guy who's been doing like 1,300 of these podcasts and doing all these TikToks, never comfortable about the way I looked on camera. I was a radio guy. I got this mug. No matter what I can do with it, I just got fucking used to it and just don't fucking care anymore. So I appreciate you wanting to do it. I just want people to understand why it's going on. And when you come on the podcast, you can do whatever the fuck you want. So we're cool.
Absolutely.
We're cool.
Absolutely.
We're cool with it. Were you surprised? I guess you weren't surprised when now the Republicans have Kamala to contend with.
Hmm.
If they're smart politicians, they talk about the border, the economy, inflation, all this stuff, but they're just flat going to the race card, the sexism card. They're like the mouth breathing, red meat eating pieces of shit, and they're going that route. Did it surprise you that they went so direct and so hard to the dark side?
Um, I'm not surprised at all. I think because when Joe Biden made that, unexpected decision to step down, as president and to endorse Kamala Harris, I think those Republicans really got scared because they were so, in Donald Trump was so in tune and competing against Joe Biden. Now all of a sudden the tables had turned and it's like he just doesn't know what to do. He's scared. He's
Yeah.
scared. And he should be.
Yeah, you should
You know,
be.
be- because look at the facts. Because Donald Trump, he's been convicted of 34 felonies, and plus he's a freaking pedophile. I mean, what kind of representation is that, though? I mean, for him to be the next president of the United States with that type of background,
Right.
how's he going to compete with Kamala Harris and she has a background, being a prosecutor in the state of California? How can you compete with that?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. They've even gone to the point that saying, well, she's not really black. Her heritage is from Jamaica. The fuck are
Right.
you talking about? My God. And she's South Asian too. The thing about it is when I look at Kamala Harris, when I saw Obama come in, I thought, this is historic. We got a black man and it's awesome and he did a great job. And now we
Hmm.
got a black woman running for president. But I don't know that in this day and age, we're in a different world than we were in 2008. I don't think people give a fuck what her race is. They just like the fact that she's a tough, badass woman who can push against Donald Trump and kick his ass. I think that's the most important thing to people at this point.
Oh, Kamala Harris, Mike, because Kamala, with her background and her level of intelligence, when she goes up and debate against Donald Trump, if he's not scared to face her, she is going to shut him down. She's definitely going to kick ass and take names. That's just no question about that because her intelligence and her background, and just like she stated in one of her previous videos that she had dealt with individuals like Donald Trump before. So this race is not anything new to her.
Yeah, she seems like, what's funny about her, what I really like about her is she was a prosecutor, she was a U.S. senator, she was a vice president,
Right.
um, and she's a pretty tough lady. You would think she'd be pretty stiff, but she's really personable and she laughs and she dances and her family loves her. I like the fact that she can balance this tough professional persona with a
Hmm.
personality. Most people can't do that.
Exactly. Exactly. Just like she stated, this election is not about dictatorship. It's about the American people because our forefathers, our ancestors were the ones that built this country. But the way Donald Trump, his mentality, he's looking at it from his perspective, it's all about dictatorship, and they think that we're supposed to just bow down to this man. Bow down to him for what?
Yeah.
Why? It doesn't make sense to me.
It's interesting. The Republicans, everything they do is about fear. It's about
Right.
fear, instilling fear in the Democrats or instilling fear in their own party to get them to react the way they want them to react. Now, Claressa, you don't strike me as somebody who's scared of shit. But how do you feel about the Republicans and what they want to do and Project 2025? Does that it gives you pause, certainly, but is there any fear as a woman who's a black woman?
You know the only thing that concerns me, and I mean, because I don't believe in fear. I just, what concerns me, because they want to be, he wants to turn this country into a dictatorship and want to take away democracy and take away our rights, as far as women's rights and, as far as minorities, rights for minorities in the LGBTQ community. Because if you look at the United States of America, I mean, it's a big melting pot because you have Caucasians, you have African Americans, you have, Hispanics, you have Asians, you got a mixture of people that comes from different walks of life. And for him to cause all this negativity and this evilness and division, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
time for our country to come together and unite.
Well, and this is what I try to tell people, if you watch my TikToks, a lot of people come to my page and make comments. Oh, you talked me off a ledge. You kept me sane. I was so scared. And what I'm trying to do is get more people not to be scared. When people
Right.
come to me and they say, I hope you're right, that pisses me off because we're in a war right now. We're in a fight. This is not the time to question whether you're tough enough to win. This is the time when you got to decide, I'm going to kick some motherfucking ass. And I always use a quote, um, and you probably heard it on TikTok, and you probably ascribe to this quote, but it's a quote from the great comedian Bernie Mac.
Uh-huh.
He came on stage after another comedian who had a bad go of it. The audience was booing him and heckling him and stuff like that. And Bernie
Mm-hmm.
Mac comes on stage. The first thing he says is, I ain't afraid of you motherfuckers. And that's the attitude you really have to have, right?
That's right. That's right. I mean, this is the time not to be scared. I mean, this is the time you have to have courage.
And be a little pissed off.
That too, because why when somebody, as far as Donald Trump status wants to come in and just take away democracy and just take us back to the days of slavery, and I look at it like this, because I'll be 60 years of age next year. Want to be in no damn position to be going to be under somebody's slave for what? Why?
Yeah.
Years, no.
Yeah. It's, I, you're
No.
60, you're 60s years old. You went through the 60s and 70s. And I've always said that people nowadays, the young people don't understand. And I understand it. I'm a white guy. But back in the 60s and the 70s,
Mhm.
um, making women second class citizens and being racist, that was just accepted. It was no big deal if somebody was racist. Because that's just the way it was. That's how short a time ago it was, and that's why I see somebody like you, Claressa, and understand why you're not afraid. You've already gone through the shit of the '60s and the '70s and the '80s. Now you're seeing this as an opportunity to kick some ass back, and I'm grateful for that opportunity because I've thought the whole thing I've gone through my life has always been ridiculous, but it's
Mhm.
just been accepted.
And you know what? I'm gonna state this because last year I had lost my mother from dementia. Because she was battling it for 4 years, and I remember one of the stories she told me that her grandmother was a slave, and just growing up with both of my parents. Like the times when growing up when my mother had a credit card, she had to apply for a credit card under my father's name.
Right, right.
And just for this man to have the audacity to take all of those rights away from us, and being independent as women. No, that's not right at all. Because, like I said, our forefathers, our ancestors sacrificed their lives, to get us to the level where we're at now today in the year of 2024. Now, all of a sudden, this fool want to sit here and just snatch the red carpet under our feet like that because he feels like it, because it's like he got this so-called, he thinks he's above the law. No, hell no.
Let me
Because
ask you,
see, he doesn't believe in karma.
he doesn't believe in anything but himself and
I
enriching
know.
himself. He's a fucking idiot.
He's
Let me
all about himself and those in his rich friends. That's all who he's about.
we have a regular guest on the show. Her name is Old Soul. Uh,
Okay.
she's a young black woman in Las Vegas. She is like an angel on earth. Everybody loves her because she's always working to help other people. She's very insightful, very perceptive, and she's a wonderful person. I would recommend you listen to the shows with Old Souls. You'll like her. In fact, when she's fiery, but she's very compassionate and soft. But she always talks about her family, who's very involved. And you sound like you might be a relative of hers because she's got a fiery mom and an uncle and her TTs and stuff. It's just, it's fun to listen to. But my point is when he did finally endorse Kamala, initially I talked to Old Soul and I said, Old Soul, what do you think about Kamala? This is before this happened. What do you think about
Mhm.
Kamala being the candidate? And she didn't like that. She said it wasn't that she didn't support Kamala. She just didn't think America would resonate with her. And I know that comes from her experiences with racism and that sort of thing. So
Right.
when Kamala got picked and it took off like this, were you surprised by that at all?
Not really, because of the simple fact that Kamala's the vice president. And, I guess from Joe's perspective, he believes that she would be the best, next vice president of the United States. And it's time for change as well, and I really believe that Kamala Harris would be the person to make that change because because I just found out recently that Mexico had just, they just elected their first female president. I
Right.
look at it like this: if Mexico can do it, then why is it that the United States of America can do it? It's
Abs-
time for change, and it's time for us to stand up.
Absolutely. And personally, I think what's really going on here, because as I've said, I think the Republicans are mounting a war against women with this overturning of Roe v. Wade and wanting to make them second class citizens. I think her being a person of color is secondary to
Right,
her being a woman.
right.
And at this point, it's a positive to be a woman because of the attacks that are being placed upon them.
And then just the fact that just being a part of, being history in terms of her being elected, being the first female president of the United States. Because if you go back into history, you have all these men that, came in, try to run the country, and if you really think about it, though, if you really think about it, men, when it came down to the households, women were the backbone to the man. They kept everything together, the household, make sure the children are taken care of, the bills were taken care of, make sure all the other business was taken care of in the household. So women were always, in the background. So why is it now that a woman could come? It's time for us to come to the forefront and unite.
Well, and it's largely due to the fact that in all of our lifetime, old white men have kind of dominated this situation, um,
Exactly.
and the world is changing now. We've got more people of color than we've ever had, women coming to the forefront and being incredibly successful, like Kamala Harris. Um,
Right.
People want to compare this to, 2016 even. The difference in this world since 2016 is so dramatic. We had COVID, we had Donald Trump, and we had the rise of MAGA. Uh, we're at a point right now where we've been pushed to the edge, and we've got to make some choices. And while
Excuse me. Mm.
while electing a black woman as president seemed crazy in 2016, it doesn't seem too crazy now. It sounds like a hell of a good idea.
Yeah, because if you look at it like this, from this perspective, Mike, because time is constantly changing, nothing stays the same anymore. We're in a different time, and it's time for time for change. It's time for a woman to come in, and they may run the country a hell of a lot better than the man would if you think about it.
Couldn't do it worse. They couldn't have done it any worse. Yeah, it's we're in different times, and I think that's what's frightening the Republicans and MAGA and Donald Trump.
Right.
They see they're losing their grip. Millennials and Gen Zs are coming to the forefront. They're going to be the majority in the voter block. None of these young people like what the Republicans and Donald Trump are espousing. So I liken them to um, uh, a rat caught in a corner. They know they're going to
Okay.
lose, so they just do everything and anything, and it gets crazy because they're fighting for their lives. I feel like the Republicans right now are fighting for their lives, and the unfortunate thing is, it could mean they do some crazy shit.
And I want and if I know Donald Trump, he's probably sitting back in the background trying to come up with something crazy. But I really think that his days right now are pretty much just about numbered.
Absolutely, absolutely. It didn't help him picking J.D. Vance. Now, J.D. Vance is
Oh
right of
no!
Donald
Oh
J.
hell no!
I mean, this guy is a fucking goofball. He's a 39-year-old goofball, and he
Right.
can't keep his mouth shut. And every time he does, just like Donald Trump, that's why we say let Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, let them talk, because every time they do, they fuck themselves up.
And that's exactly what they're doing. I mean, they're just shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah. It's kind of funny to watch. How can you be that stupid when you say the things you say? I think the thing is with Donald Trump, Donald Trump thinks people think Donald Trump's smart and rich and strategizes. None of that is true. He's not rich anymore. He was never really as rich as he said
Mm-mm.
he was. But Donald Trump has got this narcissistic mentality where
Exactly.
he thinks he's a genius. So whatever situation he's in, whatever he says, he thinks it's, gospel from Jesus, and he just spews whatever's at the top of his head. He doesn't think in advance about the ramifications because he's the best. So he just spews shit out. And that's a dangerous person, not only to all of us, but to himself.
Yeah, because the other day I didn't get a chance to see the whole entire movie, but they have something now on Netflix talking about, they're talking about Donald Trump's history. And one of the things that I did see, though, they said that he was sent to a military school for 5 years, and the person that sent him to that school was his father. And I knew right there, I said, that's where it came from. This man is going to be a problem.
Yeah, and his sister was quoted as saying that his ignorance is incredible. He has no control over anything he does. One professor in college said, "The dumbest student I've ever had." And that's the thing is people keep the Republicans, and I argue with them all the time. They try to tell me he's so smart. This guy, I mean,
Yeah,
you
right.
as as Kamala said, because you and I are of a similar age, as Kamala said, you and I just didn't fall out of a coconut tree. We know what the fuck is up. And when you run into somebody who's stupid, stupid. He can cover it up and dress up any way he wants, but dumb is dumb. And he says some of the most incredible things, and he doesn't think about it at all. It's just amazing to me that Republicans buy into the bullshit and think he's a genius.
Let me tell you something, Mike. One thing that I've learned in Chicago, the game recognized game, and that's all he's doing. He's playing mind games,
Yeah,
because like you said, he's a narcissist, and he has that tunnel vision where he doesn't think about anything or anybody else but
right,
himself. That's
right.
it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, now, uh, Kamala's got all this support. I mean, it's unprecedented, and that's why it
Mhm.
scares Donald Trump. We had a situation where they were pulling together people on Zoom calls.
Okay.
Black women had a Zoom call. They got 44,000 black women on this Zoom call. They raised a
Wow.
million and a half dollars. Okay. Black men came on, and I don't know the figures there, but I know they had thousands of people coming on, and they
Okay.
raised tons of money.
Hmm.
White women showed up on a Zoom call. They got 136,000 people on
Wow.
that Zoom call, including Pink and famous people and all that stuff. I guess famous people were on all the Zoom calls, but they raised over $2 million. Now, Claressa, I want you to go easy on me on this next one, though.
Oh no, I'm not. I'm not like that.
White men did it, and they got less than 2,000 people and $35,000. And
Wow.
And all I have to say is, motherfucker, please. White men, you motherfuckers. But my point is they said, well, it wasn't promoted properly. And maybe
Wow.
that's true. You got all this stuff going on. Now they're a little shamed. There's going to be another one on, well, this is airing Sunday, so it'll be on Monday, July 29th. There's going to be another Zoom call for white men supporting Kamala Harris. It's called White Dudes for Harris. Now I have to just go and
Wow.
Google that, and white men need to fucking step up. I'm going to be on that call. A lot of people are going to be on that call, and we got to step up and
Really?
do this. Yeah, yeah. I just wanted to get that out there because people say you got to promote it. You got to promote it. I just did. I did it on TikTok. We need to get 50,000 people out there for white men. How do you perceive white men in this whole thing? I mean, obviously, white women are supportive because
Right.
these are women's issues too. But when you look at an old white baby boomer like me, um, how do you perceive white men's perception of Kamala Harris and support for Kamala Harris? I don't. I think there's a lot more than people think, but you come from a different perspective.
I think it's fantastic. And the reason I'm stating that because, it's time for Caucasian men to come out and start seeing us not just as people of color, but start seeing us
Yeah,
on a deeper level, looking at us far as within. Because if you really think about it, we all have to get up every morning, look at the same sunshine, eat the same food, drink the same water, put on one pants leg after another, drink the same water. I mean, because we're still living under one universe.
right, right. I mean, it's so simple and so basic. It's hard to imagine how people don't don't get it.
No, they don't.
I was disappointed on Facebook. I don't go on Facebook very much, but I do have a presence there. And there is
Okay.
a former teacher at my high school. He was a
Okay.
beloved teacher. Everybody loved this teacher, but now he's posting things on Facebook that that are anti
Excuse me.
Kamala Harris, and he loves Donald Trump. And I got, Jesus Christ, how did I not know you were like this? But he is. And so I went on and I said, listen, man, I can honestly say I've lost all respect for you because he posted some just grimy meme of Kamala. I said, I've lost all respect for you.
Wow.
It's just a joke. And what troubled me more than anything, now I grew up in South Minneapolis.
Okay.
There weren't a lot of black folks in the 70s in South Minneapolis, but we had our share of black folks that were friends of mine and part of our groups and all the stuff. But in that
Uh-huh.
list, I noticed several names that were at school when I was at school in the 70s that supported that bullshit. And that is frustrating to me. I mean, it's not like
Wow.
I'm in fucking Alabama here. I'm in Minnesota, which is a blue state, but we still have these pockets of these racist motherfuckers all over the place.
Right. And then when you're speaking about that topic, far as racism, I really believe that that was taught throughout the generations in terms of
Yeah,
hating on another person, far as for their color of their skin or their nationality, because with me, for instance, my mom was biracial. She was half black and half Mexican.
right.
So we all come from different walks of life. So, don't see me as just the color of my skin, see me for my level of intelligence, see me for my level of consciousness, see me for my spiritual level. It's more to a person than just race and background.
Absolutely. I always tell this story. My grandparents, grew up in the teens of the 1900s, 19 into the 20s,
Right.
And my grandmother and my grandfather met and they were going to get married. And my great grandmother on my grandmother's side did not want my grandmother to marry my grandfather. She says
Wow.
those people are lazy and stupid. I don't want you marrying that guy. Well,
Oh,
she
wow.
married him anyway. But you know what she was prejudiced of?
What?
He was fucking Norwegian. And she was Swedish, and they
Wow.
hated Norwegians. Irish people
That's
got it,
crazy.
Italian people got it. It's funny how people will try to separate people out um, away from anything that's themselves. They're so afraid to interact with other people that
Right.
aren't like them. And it's one thing if it's the early 1900s, but we're in 2024 now. How,
Exactly.
how does
Thank
that
you.
still fucking happen?
Like I said, just going by how, these generations are teaching each person this type of behavior as far as racism. And to me, that type of those teachings right there, that curse, quote unquote, that needs to be broken.
Yeah. Yeah. It absolutely
It's
does.
time to stop.
How do you feel as a black woman? How do you feel about Kamala? Just looking at we know she's qualified. We know she's smart. Do you feel confident that she can do the job that needs to be done? Because
Absolutely.
we got a
Absolutely.
big hole
Because
to dig out of.
absolutely. Because I really believe Kamala Harris, she's really our hope, just to for them to for the announcement coming out saying she's running for presidency. I was just so relieved and said, man, I said, this country really has a chance now because, with Donald Trump and the way he was, keep on endorsing Project 2025. I mean, I was starting to get scared. I'm like, I think, and then I've been talking to friends saying, oh, well, we should move out the country. And I'm like, what? Why?
You don't strike me as a woman who's going to run. You strike me as a
I
woman
mean,
who's
for
going to dig
what?
in and fight those motherfuckers.
Yeah, because who the hell Trump thinks he is? Just all of our ancestors and forefathers came into this country and stood for civil rights, equality, and justice, and all of a sudden he just want to walk in and just say, "Oh, it's time to take all of that away." Who the hell does he think he is?
Yeah, and what's funny is that all the Republicans who never would have said these things before have jumped on board, and they're saying the most egregious stuff against women, against people of color, against LGBTQ folks. It's amazing to me that they don't have enough foresight to see that when Donald Trump loses, they're all going to be standing there with a lot of stink left on them from
Right.
buying into this bullshit, and it's going to go away with Donald Trump as far as being popular even amongst Republicans, and they're going to have to address it. I mean, we're seeing what's happened to JD Vance now. They're pulling out videos from years ago saying, why did you say this, why did you say that? Same thing is going to happen to all these fucks that follow Donald Trump. They're going to have to answer it 5 years from now, 10 years from now.
Yeah, and it's just, and then now he's been convicted of 34 felonies and he's going to be possibly sentenced in September. I'd like to see what the end result is that going to be. I mean, is he going to be on house arrest? He's going to be on probation or, is he going to do quote unquote jail time?
I don't see how he doesn't get jail time with everything considered. I mean, he's got the 34 felony charges. They say, well, he's a first time offender. Yeah, 34 fucking times he's a first time offender. Plus, he talked shit about the judge. He violated the gag order. He violated it again after he was punished. I don't know how they don't give him jail time. It just doesn't make any sense.
And then the secret comes out with him now showing that he's a pedophile. It's like, and you want an individual like him to run for presidency? I don't think so.
Yeah, it's pretty appalling. I tell you what, Claressa, we're going to take a quick break,
Okay.
do what I got to do, and we'll be right back.
As one of my friends from radio used to say, we're going to take a pause for the call.
That fits. I worked in radio most of my life, so I've heard that. I've also heard about the guys who really had a problem and had to put on an extra long record because 3 minutes wasn't going to cover it. All right, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. I have a listener guest on, actually a TikTok listener. Her name is Cloressa. She is from
Yes.
Chicago. And Claressa, I was remiss when we first started this out. We just kind of got into it, and
Right.
I think we need to tell people about your background because as we sit and do this for the first time, clearly this isn't a new thing for you. You know what the fuck is up, and
No.
and you're good at this. So tell us about yourself.
Well, just to kind of touch about me, I'm from Chicago. I did had a show on YouTube called Chicago Talk, where I was talking about different celebrities and different issues and just, delivering the truth, and I was doing that for a while up until my mom got sick. She was battling dementia for the past 4 years, and then she had passed away. And
Oh, I'm sorry.
it's been hard, but I'm trying to get back into the swing of it. So, and if, well, I'm on all the social media platforms, but the main one was on YouTube.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's great. Well, this will be on YouTube too. So maybe some folks will recognize you from your past shows. Are you going to get back into it? Get back into doing something on YouTube
Yeah,
or
I might,
elsewhere?
like I said, now this issue with Kamala Harris, I might kind of touch on that and make a few videos and just, express myself about this subject from my perspective, from being a minority, a woman, and because these things definitely need to be addressed because it's time for us to come together and unite.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the one thing about Kamala Harris. Um, what she's done in this situation is the one thing that we sorely needed. Now, the Republicans are split. They're not united at all, which is to our benefit when the
Wow.
election comes up. But the Democrats weren't unified either. I mean, you had those
Right.
people that said, "Well, Joe's too old. We shouldn't have him. We should have somebody else." And I always try to explain to people, don't worry about Joe's age. Let's just beat these motherfuckers, and then afterwards we can figure out the problems. But now
Exactly.
Kamala is here, and we're seeing an unprecedented amount of unity amongst Democrats, young people, old people, people of color, women, men. It's refreshing to see because this is something we haven't seen in frickin' years.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I really find that to be amazing for, the new generation, our future leaders to step up and just realize that, what type of opportunities we have and for Kamala to bring that back to the light. I think it's just a positive change, a positive turnaround.
What um, what you saw during the Trump administration, now you saw Biden. What while you were watching when the Trump administration, is this something you recognized as a problem as soon as he got in office? Were you
Oh,
worried about
please.
that as soon as he got
Oh,
in?
please. That's an automatic given. Because
Okay.
like I said, Trump is, he doesn't have any solid experience in politics. That's rule number one.
Right.
And then from his background, yeah, he was a businessman. That's fine and dandy. But the worst mistake I think he ever made was to decide to come into politics and decide to run for office. And I'm like, really? And that was the worst mistake because, I mean, look at the way the country is right now. Look at the status of it now because of him.
Yeah, I think when he gets down to getting sentenced and the other trials come to pass, I think he
Right.
will look back on his life and realize his worst choice was to run for president because he could have flown under the radar as a phony rich guy being racist and misogynistic, and nobody would have cared. But once he decided to take the spotlight and get up on the stage in a place that's bigger than he is, that's where he fucked up.
And then look at Elon Musk. I found out the other day that he was giving Trump $45 million to support his campaign. Now all of a sudden he decided to pull out of that because he knows that Trump is not going to win.
Yeah, and I think that's the funny thing. I've always said people are going to step away from him when it becomes apparent that he's not going to win. And for me, that was 2 years ago. I knew he wasn't going to win. I knew he didn't have a chance to win.
No,
But why is it taking so long for people to realize the obvious?
that's a really good question. I mean, I think what it is, and I'll just tell the listeners, it's time for us to wake up.
Yeah.
We've been walking around sleep for a long, long time. It is time for us to wake up, see the light, knowing that our lives is at stake, and we need to stop this man from taking our rights away, as far as democracy is concerned. It's time to wake up.
Now, Claressa, do you have occasion to talk to, as I call them, Trump-lefucks or Trump supporters? Do you ever run into them? I have a feeling you don't hold back on that.
I mean, and I'm just like you. I can't stand Trump nor the Trump-lefucks. I can't stand them. It's like, and even when they come on TikTok and make all these comments, I'd be like, shut the hell up. You don't know
Yeah.
what you're talking about.
It's almost silly, but you know what disturbs me most, and the thing that I've realized since Donald Trump became president is we've got a serious epidemic of stupid in this country because
Stupidity. Exactly.
I
You're
talk to
right.
people now and they'll say something and I'll respond to them and they'll act as if they've never heard something that's been a clearly important story. People only hear what they want to hear, they watch what they want to watch,
Exactly.
and a lot of people don't know what the fuck is really going on.
And then and especially on TikTok, I noticed for people, to make comments on these videos saying Trump is the best president. I'm like, how is he the best president?
Well,
How?
that's the thing. I mean, it goes back to what we talked about. It's not really a political party. It is actually a cult because when you sit down
Yeah.
and talk to them and say, "Okay, what policies do you like?" and they can't respond to it. Well, what do you have to say about the 34 felony convictions? They don't have anything to say about it. They just
No, they
like
don't.
Trump because they like Trump and they don't want to be wrong and they won't back off from it.
And then but when we come and say, well, hey, what is the best thing you like about him as far as his qualifications, they sit there and look dumbfounded.
Well, they'll say something like he's tough. Now, did you grow up in Chicago?
Yes, I did.
And I grew up in South Minneapolis. I've known tough guys and tough women. And if you know anything about tough guys and tough women, Donald Trump is not one of them. He's not a
Oh,
tough
hell
guy.
no. Hell no. I remember this was a few years ago. I remember I had watched a it was on Facebook. It was Facebook Live.
Okay.
He came to Chicago and he was like by University of Chicago, he was on the west side, U of I, and he
Right.
was supposed to deliver a speech. And soon when he was about to walk to the mic, he was on stage. Soon he was about to walk to the mic. Here come these other dudes, these black men coming up to him, and I think they were throwing rocks and they was trying to chase him off the stage. And boy, when I saw that, I was almost crying.
Yeah.
They heard up and got him out of Chicago because they couldn't stand him.
Yeah. That's and Trump has a presence in Chicago. He has a Trump building there, right? Or did.
Yes, right. The Trump Towers downtown.
Now Illinois is a pretty blue state. Chicago's obviously blue. Uh,
Of
but he
course.
but he has a building in Chicago. What do you think the perception overall of Donald Trump in Illinois, where you're at? Do you think
If
most
he,
people hate?
I don't, I mean, in terms of him maintaining the Trump Towers, and this is just, I could be wrong, but me personally, I just don't see it. I don't see it.
I can't believe. I mean, everything he's doing is failing. Let me ask you this: that Kamala is trying to decide who she's going to have for a vice president.
hmm
And she's got to decide by the end of the week, I think, end of this coming week. And some of the names are like Shapiro from Pennsylvania, Kelly from Arizona, our governor, Tim Walz, but she's even talking about Pritzker, your governor. Do you have any thoughts on?
Oh God,
Are you a fan?
hell no,
Okay,
no,
why? What don't you like
hell
about
no.
Pritzker?
I think the only now this is just me personally. The only thing I like about Pritzker because of the fact that he legalized marijuana in the state of Illinois, though, because there's some people with different illnesses that when some doctors use marijuana to treat those illnesses, that's one thing that I back them up on. But in terms of anything else, as far as trying to stopping the violence here, no. Now, because I was on a live last night with someone who's part of the LGBT community, and he did mention Kelly in Arizona, saying he might be a good person to be Kamala's vice president. So I don't know much about him, but he was speaking strongly about him.
What do you think about Pete Buttigieg as a vice president?
I had to research him because I don't really have too much information on him. That I don't know.
He was a mayor in Indiana, South Bend, Indiana. Of course, he ran for president, which sounded crazy, but he did really well. He's very smart.
Wow.
He's very smart. Now he's the transportation director under Biden, but he also happens to be gay. Do you think that works against him in becoming a vice president?
No, I mean, because I have gay friends myself, and I don't have anything against the LGBT community. I mean, as long as they take care of their business in office, whatever they do after that in their private life, that's their private business.
But people are saying, okay, we got a black woman, a South Asian woman. We can't have another woman as vice president, and we can't have a gay man as vice president. And what I'm suggesting to folks is, yeah, that might have been the case prior to 2016, but once again, we're in a
Right.
different world. We're in survival
Exactly.
mode. We're in survival mode now. We need to win. Our only goal should be winning in November, and then after that, and we've got some freedom and room to breathe, then we can start fixing whatever problems we are. But we got to do
Right.
whatever we got to do to win on November 5th.
Yeah, I would probably say, I would have to back up my friend that was on the live I was on last night with him. I would probably say Kelly in Arizona. I mean, he spoke strongly about him.
Well, Mark Kelly is a strong choice because he is a senator in a swing
Right.
state. He's a senator in a swing state. If he goes for vice president, there's a Democratic governor, so they would then appoint another Democratic senator, so they don't lose
Right.
anything there. He's also a former astronaut, so he's kind of a hero. He was in the military.
Okay.
His wife was Gabby Gifford. If you remember, she's the representative that was shot and wounded in a speech he
Okay.
was given. So he's got that. Plus, he's in a border state, and he had some strong ideas about the border. So he checks all the boxes. I wish he was a little younger, but he's not that
Mm.
old either. But he is a good choice.
Yeah, because I think that, having new blood coming into office, that would be in tune with today's issues that we're facing now. I think that would be fantastic, because it just let all these old fools go because they need to sit down somewhere.
Well, let me ask you this. Kamala appears to be a force of nature. She seems unstoppable. I've described it as a rock rolling down the hill, picking up speed. You either get the fuck out of the way, get on board, or you're going to get run over. And I really believe that with Kamala. She's just going to gain momentum. Does the choice of the vice president, make that much difference when you've got somebody like Kamala at the top of the ticket?
Oh, absolutely. And the reason why I'm stating that because, it takes teamwork to make a dream work.
Yeah, true. True.
Because, when you're talking about saving democracy and saving the rights of minorities, women, LGBTQ community, and not so much those areas, but just as a country as a whole, we need a strong team that will represent the United States of America.
Right. And that's one of the mistakes I think the Biden administration made.
Hmm.
They got Kamala Harris as the vice president, which was a great
Right,
choice, as we know.
right.
But all through the 4-year term, she did a lot of stuff, but they didn't really showcase her. And I thought they should have showcased her, not so much to give her the nomination after, because we didn't know that was going to happen. But here's a guy that's 81 years old. He could conceivably die while he's in in office. So we need people to feel solidly and strongly about the vice president. That vice president plays a more important role. I was
Absolutely.
They should have
Absolutely.
showcased her up until where it was. But even though they didn't showcase her, now she's this fucking phenomena.
Yes.
They could have made a lot of hay in the beginning if they had just jumped on board with Kamala and promoted the shit out of her from the beginning.
Exactly. I'm agreeing with you on that. I mean, if they should have brought her more into the forefront, then it would be, yeah, absolutely.
How do you like the way she's going at Donald Trump? It's funny. Every time she goes
I
on,
love every bit of it.
she comes
I
out with a
love every
statement
bit of
and,
it.
and she doesn't refer to Donald Trump. She refers to him as the 78-year-old criminal.
And I understand where she's coming from because as being a former prosecutor, and then her dealing with cases and people like him before, like she stated, this is not anything new to her.
Right. Right. Well, Kamala Harris is Donald Trump's nightmare. I mean, Donald Trump's not had a good run with strong black women. Letitia James, Fonnie Willis, Judge
Right.
Chutkan. It's not gone well. And because he's a criminal, literally a criminal right now, and you have a
Right.
prosecutor. She's the exact perfect nemesis for Donald Trump. Donald Trump doesn't like talking to prosecutors because he has a problem with
She will
the truth.
shut him down within a blink of an eye.
And I think he knows that. That's why he's kind of backing away from this September 10th debate. I don't think he'll show up to that.
I mean, do you think he'll be president? Well, now, so you really think that he won't be president, as far as like for the debate? Because I would love to see that.
Oh, I would love to see it. We could put that on pay-per-view and I'd pay $50 to see it.
I would
Um,
definitely pay that to see that, because all he had to do is say something crazy, and Kamala Harris would just stand there and she'll give him that look.
well, the problem with it is he's going to have a quandary here. He knows his people know he's going to get his ass kicked in this situation. I'm
Yep.
not so sure he does because he's so delusional. He thinks he's a genius. Um, but when we get to that point, he's going to be sentenced shortly thereafter, like September 15th, I think. Um,
Okay.
he may not have a choice. He may be forced into the situation. He may be losing in the polls. He may be getting rolled over by Kamala Harris. He may not have a choice. He'll have to take that risk and do it. So I don't know exactly what he's got. He's a pussy ass bitch, a PAB as we like
Uh-oh.
to say, and he's a coward because he's a bully, and the bullies are cowards. So he'll want to run away from it. But if it looks like it's going to cost him money or votes or something, he's going to want to do it. He he's not good at making decisions, making good
I think
decisions.
he's gonna bail, if you ask me, because
That would be the
I mean,
smart
and
move.
said again,
That would be the smart move, but Donnie's not smart.
and then just from the videos I saw, and saying he's slurring in his words, I mean, it make me wonder, is he demented?
Oh, I don't question at all that he's diminished cognitively. You just have to listen to him talk. He goes off on tangents. He talks about things that make no sense or are not part of the topic. He slurs his
Exactly.
words. That's the other interesting thing. Kamala Harris and the media is now starting to play the bits and pieces of where he's slurring and not saying words right. And I was wondering if the media would do that. They were all over Joe Biden about it, even though Donald Trump was doing it too. Now that Joe Biden's out of it, Donald Trump is the old man. We need
Right.
to spotlight his gaffes and his problems if we're going to be fair to Joe Biden.
Because I was kind of questioning that. I'm like, if he's standing there making these speeches and slurring his words, and then there was rumors talking about that he had a body odor. It's like that's obvious. The man has dementia. I mean, those are the signs.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. He did a speech on Friday
Uh-huh.
In West Palm Beach, and
Okay.
it was to the Turning Point group. Now that's that young group run by Charlie Kirk. They're claimed to be Christians, but they don't
Oh,
act like
right.
Christians. He stood up there and he said, "I love Christians. I'm a Christian." And then he says, "Just vote this time, and you'll never have to vote again because I'll make it so good. I'll fix everything. You'll never have to vote again." Now, to me, that means two things. Once I get in, I'm never leaving, which is possible, or really what I think he's saying is just vote me in this 4 years so I can do my 4 years and save my ass. And then I don't give a fuck what happens to the country or the
Wow.
presidency. I don't know which one it is, but either way, it's pretty despicable.
And then I had heard something about he was what Kamala Harris was saying in one of her speeches, where Donald Trump was speaking with one of the leaders in Russia. He's supposed to have been a dictator or something.
Right.
And he specifically told this man, he was like, "Oh, you could do whatever the hell you want to do."
Right.
And Kamala Harris was like, "Well, that makes him disqualified as being a president. Not only that, that's making him disqualified. To me, that's disrespectful, because why would you just disrespect the country like that, and just telling this man overseas and telling him, oh, you could do whatever the hell you want to do?"
Yeah, there's so many things that should disqualify him. The only reason it doesn't is because it doesn't say in the Constitution that XYZ can uh, uh, disqualifies him. I got to ask you about this. This is something that has kind of gone by the wayside, and it's strange because it was a huge story, and now it's just kind of fading away. And that was the assassination attempt on Donald Trump
Oh God.
In Pennsylvania. I'm curious as to what you think about that.
I mean, come on now, Mike. Now, you know, and I know, and we both know that, and excuse my language, but I'm just gonna put that out there in a truthful manner. We both know that whole situation was bullshit and it was staged because if it was for real, and if Trump had allegedly got, shot, why the hell is it that he would just pump his fist in the air like he's Angela Davis, like, standing up for rights? I mean,
Yeah.
that's bullshit. And then
But
go to wear this fake gauze on his ear, and found out somebody said somebody said he rolled out on the wrong ear.
well, what's funny is when I first heard about it, I was having dinner with my wife in a restaurant. I heard about it and I heard he was alive and I kind of saw some video of it. The first thing I thought, yeah, that's staged because that's exactly what
That
Donald
was
Trump would
sad.
do. It's crazy, but Donald Trump is crazy. Then when I heard somebody died, I thought, well, maybe it's not staged. I mean, who would go to that extent
That was staged.
to
I'm
stage something?
sorry.
But there's so many weird things about it. I saw a video of him with his hat on and showed his right ear. There's nothing wrong with it. And I've always said, you want us to believe you, just show us the fucking ear. Show us the notch that's cut out. I mean, if you get hit with
Right.
a high velocity bullet, it's probably, even if you just nick it, it's probably going to take the whole ear off. But,
Exactly.
and when
And
I,
just like you said in one of your videos, what we would like to see the doctor's report. Now that will speak for itself.
right. But well, he did come up with uh, a true social doctor's report that Ronnie Jackson clown, who's a representative now, who was his doctor when he was in the White House, the one that said that he's almost superhuman and could live to 200 years and he's in perfect shape and he's six
Yeah,
three and
okay.
230. Yeah, this guy's a clown. And he said, no, I saw the ear and there's a 2 centimeter hole in the ear. Well, good. Let us see it. Because
Please show the hole.
when I saw his bloody ear, his ear seemed fully intact. You could see the outline of the ear, but
And then plus I saw another video where they said that the driver, his limo driver, had took Donald Trump somewhere though to purchase fake blood.
really,
And so when I read that, I was like, that whole incident was staged.
well, yeah, we don't, the fact that he had Hulk Hogan on before him, and the wrestling aspect of this. I mean, when you say that, here's the thing, Claressa, when you say that. If it was a normal human being, we'd say, Cloressa, you're fucking crazy. That's stupid. But because Donald Trump is the guy, not so fucking crazy.
I mean, and the only thing that I could think of, and I was talking to a friend of mine about this, the week that it happened, the only thing that I could think of the reason why that he staged that incident was to make the voters feel sorry for him and to
Yeah.
win more votes. But Joe Biden sat up there and turned the tables on him, and I give him round of applause for that though, because that was brilliant. That was, you can't get any more smart than Joe Biden.
Well, that's the thing. I've said this before on the podcast. I said, Joe Biden, before he stepped aside, people were feeling sorry for him. People thought he was diminished. People
Oh, please.
thought he was weak. And then he
Oh,
did
please.
that play where he stepped aside. And as soon as he stepped aside, my wife and everybody I know were upset. They were crying. They were mad. They had no hope. But the pivot point to what changed everything is when he said, "Oh, by the way, I support and endorse Kamala Harris." And
Okay.
everybody go, "Well, that's nice." And then we had this explosion of support. And you realize Joe Biden, he is slow and he stutters and all this stuff, but he's been in that business for 50 years, 60 years. He knows
Right.
it better than anybody. No one can tell me it wasn't calculated that he waited till after the convention, after they spent all the money going after Joe, and they got pissed because that happened. Joe played him. And then I really think that there were some people with money on the Democratic side that wanted to jump over Kamala and bring
Wow.
in some white guy. But Joe said, "Now we're not having that. I'm endorsing her. Now try to jump over." And they couldn't. And then all of a sudden, this huge wave of support came in. And then all these people that wanted something different said, "We're just going to get fucking run over. We're not, yeah, we'll just get on board." And I think that was masterful by Joe Biden. And no one can tell me otherwise. He was smart
I
as.
mean, that was a very brilliant move that he did. I mean, because after that incident with that alleged, staged incident with Donald Trump, I said, we're in trouble. And soon I found out that he endorsed Kamala Harris, I said, there's hope.
You know what the funny thing is after that assassination attempt, all the Republicans came out and said, "There you go. You just let Donald Trump win the election. He'll get all the sympathy and all this stuff." Now, there are people that buy it that are his Trump-la-fucks. They were going to vote for him anyway. They were hoping to get some independents and Republicans to vote for him or Democrats to vote for him out of
Right.
sympathy. The problem with it is, even if it was staged, he fucked that up too, because the
Oh,
way
yeah.
the way it happened,
That,
all the
that, that
people,
goes without saying.
I can tell you, I can talk to 10 people on the street that are Democrats and ask them about the shooting, and 9 out of 10 of them will say exactly what you said. It was staged.
Thank you. Thank you.
Whether it was staged or not doesn't make a difference. People believe it was staged, and Donald Trump gets no sympathy. He gets more
Nope.
disregard because they think he did that.
Oh yeah, he set that up just to try to win over more voters. But anybody with any intelligence would see right through that and be like, no, we're going another direction. We're gonna take this on a different approach.
Well, and with that shooting, people, I've gone back and forth of it being staged or not. I'm not sure, but I think an investigation needs to be done. And in fact, the FBI said in front of Congress, we don't know if Donald Trump got hit with a bullet or glass or what happened. They don't know
Mhm.
what it is. Um, and of course, the doctor came out and was upset. Well, I saw a 2 centimeter hole and all that stuff. And then Lindsey Graham comes out and says, he's admonishing the FBI director for having the audacity to say that. Now, keep in
Right.
mind, the FBI director we currently have was appointed by Donald Trump. So shut the fuck up about that. But here's what the FBI is doing. When you shoot at a former president, that's a big deal. There's going to
Exactly.
there's going to be a big investigation. And because they don't know what hit Donald Trump and Donald Trump's not told him and there's been no doctor's report provided, the FBI is now going to investigate what hit Donald Trump, and they're going to call him in to interrogate or question him about what happened. Now,
Right.
is he going to go to the DOJ and the FBI and lie? Well, they're just going to want to see the fucking ear. Hopefully, we get the real story about this. Hopefully, it's publicized.
Do you think though that FBI is gonna kind of figure out that incident was staged, even down to a Secret Service man? I didn't see, and then for what I saw the footage, the Secret Service man didn't show their weapons being drawn. The police wasn't there, so that's why I knew right there it was staged.
Well, yeah, if it was staged, and I can't say for sure if it's not, if it was or not, it's just that there's so many questions around it, and I think the FBI has those same questions. And
Right.
if they have a sense, if it was staged, I have a feeling they have a sense it was staged, and now they're going to have to try to get together with Merrick Garland and maybe the president and try to package it in a way where it doesn't create a firestorm if it was staged. That's why I'm saying they might hold back a little bit and not tell us everything.
Let me ask you this question. Do you think it'd be more death threats, coming to Trump? I mean, since he staged this incident from my perspective.
Well, you always have the copycat people, but I've always said this too. You know, they say if Donald Trump loses, it's going to be a civil war, and I think that's bullshit. They learned their lesson
Oh yeah.
on January 6th, and they know it's going to be worse because Joe Biden's now the president. My greatest fear for violence is if it looks like Donald Trump is going to win, or he does win. There are many Democrats and independents that think that's the end of our democracy, end of our country as we know it, end of the future for our kids and grandchildren. And when you bring
Right.
somebody to that level, even if they might be peaceful, they're going to be angry and scared, and I'm afraid of violence on the left side. Honestly,
And you know what? And then just kind of like was reviewing a little bit about the document on speaking on Project 2025. And for him to have the audacity to talk about he wants to take away Medicare and, health care and stuff, especially for our seniors, and then plus with me going to be a future quote unquote, senior citizen, that really scares me.
let me ask you this. Just make a comparison. Now, Claressa, you're a 59-year-old Black woman in Chicago. Do
Well,
you have
I'll be 59 in September.
okay,
Yes.
okay. Do you have kids or pets?
Oh, no kids, but I do have three pets, two dogs and a cat.
Okay, okay. You got dogs. Okay.
Two dogs and a cat, right?
You're a 50. You're going to be 59 years old, and you're walking down the street, and a white guy who's 6'3", 240, and in perfect shape comes by and kicks your dog. What are you going to do? I have a
I'm gonna
feeling
kick
there's,
his ass. That's what
yeah,
I'm gonna do.
that's
Let
what
him
I'm,
touch my baby.
that's what I'm saying. People will get to a point when you take something from them or damage something they have, size and power makes no difference. They're going to have the first reaction and they're going to want to fight. And that's
That's
what I'm
right.
concerned about with the left side.
Because like I said, why would you want to take away Social Security, and these people worked all their lives, for that. And
Yeah.
then you want to take Medicare away. I mean, because the cost of healthcare is not cheap. It really,
No,
especially for seniors and elderly people.
we're coming to the end of the show, but I wanted to ask you this. I believe Kamala will win, and I think she'll win
Yes.
probably in a landslide as much as what the polls say. Um, what do you see for the country if Kamala wins and she has a
Oh,
good
wow.
VP?
I mean,
How
it
does it
would be,
change?
yeah, I mean, it will stop Project 2025, democracy will be saved and just, as a movement that, we'll still maintain our freedom and
Yeah,
our rights.
it's going to be a brighter day, no question, right?
Yes, it will. Absolutely.
And I like to. I'm a guy a glass half full kind of guy, and I think it's almost destiny. What's going on now seems like it's all supposed to happen in this order, and we're going to finally come out of the dark place we've been in for the last 8 years. I just get that sense about it.
Right. Because it's time for us to walk towards the light now.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm hoping that at some point Donald Trump gets that option to walk toward the light, but I doubt he'll get that.
Oh, please. And you probably don't even know what the definition means.
No, 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 no. I'm thinking, when he goes on to another realm, I don't know if that light's going to be there for him.
That's a good question. I don't know.
I don't know either. Well,
Maybe
Claressa,
he may learn in the next lifetime. I don't know. Who knows?
yeah, 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 he'll come back as a dog that gets kicked, maybe.
Oh
Well,
boy, that would be wow.
that would be wild. Well, Claressa, I want to thank you for joining me on the show. I appreciate it. It's your first time on. Uh, it's great to talk to you. You're more than welcome to come back anytime. So just
Absolutely, I would love to. And then for everybody that's listening, you could catch me I'm on all the social medias. You catch me under C Temptation H. I'm on TikTok, Facebook. You catch me on YouTube, X. I'm on all the platforms.
by all means, I got to ask you about the name though. Sea Temptation. What's that about?
See Temptation H. Somebody, no, because somebody I knew a long time ago, he had asked me, to use that name because I was in the poetry. And, that name just just stuck with me. I just kind of like just felt like a connection with that name. And I started using it on social media and it's been working since.
People ask me the same thing about Rational Boomer, and I say I was sitting in my bedroom, pulled that out of my ass, put it on social media, and it's kind of stuck. So I just had to. I was curious as to the origin because everybody has a story behind what they decide to identify themselves on social media with. So
Right.
Seize Temptation, YouTube, all the social media platforms. Check her out. You had a chance to listen to her. I know you liked her because I know what my people like. So again, when you should want to come back on, just email me and we'll set something up. I'm getting a lot of guests
I definitely
lately.
would love to come back though, and like I said, and touch on, any topics.
All right, perfect, perfect. Thank you, Claressa. For those of
Thank
you
you.
for those of you listening, I want to thank you for taking the time to do that. Hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.